Buying a new piece of gear, whether it's a synthesizer, computer, or anything else you are interested in, can after a while give you buyer's remorse. I have certainly experienced this, and I think there are a few ways we can attack this feeling. The first one is to try to know the difference between wants and needs before you buy something. I know it's easy to say, maybe not that easy in practice. I mean, I want to get another hardware synthesizer, but do I really need it to create the music I want to create? Not really. And can I use those $5,000 on a new flagship synthesizer to something more useful, or perhaps leave them in investments or something like that? Yes, of course I can do that, and it might be the right course of action in some cases. Maybe buying that plugin for $200 that does 97% of what that hardware synthesizer does for you is more economically sane, but is that fun and enjoyable? Well, maybe not. I saw a post on Reddit where a person asked if he should allow himself to buy an expensive flagship synthesizer, even though he never would make it worth his while in income. He was not earning money or that much money on his music production, but this is what he liked to do. And most of the answers he got as this: if this is your hobby and if this is something that makes you happy, it's reason enough to buy and enjoy whatever you want. It's your life, it's your money, and no one can really tell you that it is a wrong choice. It's up to you ultimately. It's not wrong to buy a musical instrument or a tool or something and not be a professional musician. I mean, when I was working on the studio, screwing the panels up here, I bought a Milwaukee drill. It was awesome. I didn't need it. It's been useful for me years afterwards. Maybe you like the craftsmanship of a synthesizer, the design of it. It could be reason enough. I mean, people buy Rolex watches, they buy expensive designer clothes, people buy more car or newer cars that they really need, and I am of course guilty of this. I like BMW, not cheap, but this is what I've been driving for the past 20 years. As long as I can afford it, I'm going to keep doing that. One reason to stay off buying expensive stuff is if it's really going to affect your day-to-day finances. I would not finance a synthesizer or a piece of gear I don't really need to get my work done, something my income is dependent on. Otherwise, it's wise to just keep the money in your investments or someplace else. Just keep your credit card at zero. One of these examples can be when a new Mac is coming out. I'm going to make some videos about this on this channel, try it in music production, and in this case I might finance a part of it just to be able to get it fast enough and create videos about it. I mean, Apple is not going to send me stuff. I mean, if I can make 10 videos of a Apple product that earns me, I don't know, $50 per video or $10 per video, it's not going to pay for the Mac, but it's going to take off some of the cost. So that could be one of the reasons, for me at least, and of course for you it can be other reasons. And this is for you who thinks you have too much stuff and you can't seem to get anything done because you have all this gear but nothing is happening in your creative work. In this case, I think one tip you can do is try to mentally get back to the point where you started out experimenting with music production. You probably didn't have that much gear and you had to get by with what you had. If you open up some of your older projects, you may realize that some of the older ideas you had was pretty good, but maybe they're not executed in a good way. You didn't have the sonical experience, you didn't have the mixing experience, and it doesn't really sound that good sonically, but the idea is good. And now you have the experience. Try getting back in that mindset again. Pick one piece of gear and let the other stuff be, and see if you can come up with some kind of idea on just that single piece of gear. Or maybe use one of your older ideas as a base of something new. Try to resist the temptation to add more sound sources. Try to work more on the single sound and try to develop that as far as you can. And when you have hit that limit, you can try to add more sounds. But trying to add more and more and more sounds, I have been a victim of that. I have been making ideas that don't really work, and I just try to add more layers on top of that, but the base is just, it doesn't work. Try to get the base as good as possible before you add something else on top. if you have a lot of gear, you have to allow yourself to let it sit unused for a while, because no person can have the time to, I mean, use, if you have 10 synthesizers around you or some other tools. I mean, if you go into the studio and you see all of those expensive gear you have there not doing anything at all, it might feel wrong, but that feeling is not really helping you at all. If it doesn't really work, going into the studio and you see all of this, you can sell off some stuff. You can put the money in savings and keep them there for another day. It's, I mean, if you buy a car, it will depreciate a lot, especially if you buy a new car. You're never going to recoup your investments. Probably a little bit like this in synthesizers as well, but I don't think synthesizers depreciate as much as a car, so it depends a little bit on what kind of synthesizer you have, of course. But and nowadays, when the interest rates are up and people hold tight on their money, it might be difficult to sell some gear. But yeah, if it's really bothering you, you should maybe try to get rid of it or just pack it away. But you have to allow yourself to not use the gear and just try to deep dive in one thing you already have, to try to explore everything. And the takeaway of this video is that you can allow yourself expensive gear and tools, of course, and even if you don't really need it, it's your choice, because that in itself can be inspiring and it can get you creative again. And of course, I'm all for getting creative. And also, if you have a lot of stuff, realize that you might have to actually limit yourself, do just one thing at a time. You might hit that happy accident that are the base of so many successful and unique tracks. I hope this helps. Talk to you later. Goodbye.